This is the Original Outdoors Podcast. Richard Predo. Interviews, tips, news, reviews from people who live and work in the outdoors. The Original Outdoors Podcast. And now, your host, Richard Predo.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Original Outdoors Podcast. The reason it sounds like I'm walking whilst recording this is because I am. I'm walking down through the fields and down a couple of lanes to meet some clients for one of our first courses of 2015, which is Introduction to Tracking. This we run near the town of Ruthin in the Vale of Clwyd in Denbighshire. We sort of go through the fields and footpaths and woodlands just to the western edge of the Vale of Clwyd. And yeah, we've got a small group today. We're going to have some interesting tracks to find, hopefully. This time of year can be a bit hit and miss. It can be very cold or everything's out and a lot of animal movement, or it can be incredibly wet, in which case if you get a couple of days of really heavy rain, then a lot of the animals will just go to ground. So you're looking at some older tracks rather than the newer ones. But it's been relatively dry last few days. We've laid some sand traps out in the woodland on animal tracks that we know to be quite busy ones. So we should hopefully get some really good prints for the guys to look at and work through. And yeah, I think we're going to have a really good day out. So I'll record a few things as we go, and we'll see. Let's just move out of the way for a Land Rover to come past. I will keep doing a few recordings throughout the day so you can hear what's going on. And then the rest of the episode is an interview with our friend Andy Jones from a company called Seren Ventures, who are based a little to the west of here in Betws-y-Clwyd. Andy's someone I've known for a long time and somebody he's been on my list to get onto the podcast. So we finally managed to nail him down in a cafe and have a bit of a chat with him. So that's this episode. You can listen to me talk about tracking, but not talk to you. And you can listen to a guy called Andy Jones talking about why he lives and works and loves the outdoors. And I'm about to be run over by a milk tanker. So as we were looking back at the ice track down there where the vehicle's gone through the puddles and we can see the direction it's moved through in and sort of the age of the track, it links in really well with our natural navigation course, because you've got to have this understanding of which directions the sun's moving and how that affects the heat on the ground and what it does to the frost. Like you can see the frost clocks over there where it's that's been in shade longer this morning, so that's still got the frost on the ground, whereas over here it's all started to melt off, and particularly that hedgerow over there that's been laid, you can see that's looking quite warm and moist, but warm over there, whereas over here it's still quite cold hard and white. Yeah. So that gives you an idea. You can see what the direction the sun's moving. You can also tell which direction south is, but it will affect the age of the tracks in those areas. So you can see if something's a new fresh track made in the soft ground over there, it will give you a different age to a track made in one here which has only just started to melt. So we're looking down on a track trap that we laid last night or yesterday evening, which is it's kids' play sand. Smoothed down over an area that we know is a used animal trail, and we're a couple of metres away from a known active badger set, but this area is absolutely full of them. It's one of the oldest badger sets in Wales apparently, but we're looking down on what is clearly some badger tracks, which for January it's nice to see them this active, and we've also got, looks like, I think some shrew and mouse. And possibly a squirrel there as well, maybe. This one here.
Yes.
It's
there's a badger there, is there?
Yeah, badger's there, big badger pad. Maybe this one here as well. You can see the direction they've moved, and they've moved under here, under this fence out into the field. You can see where the hares.
The hares catching on the fence.
Yeah, that's it. You can see where they've gone then into the field. And then if you look left and right, you can see the tracks that run along the field edge. So we're coming towards the end of the course now, where it's a culmination of the things that we've covered in the day, with which so far we've covered how to identify animal tracks and animal runs and where the likely places to find those tracks, then identifying those animals and the size from the track. So far we've followed quite a few mice and shrews and small rodents, maybe a couple of squirrels, an otter, badgers, some really good badger prints up at the top, and now we're following a footprint that we've picked out. It's an anonymous person, just a footprint on a busy footpath, and now using a technique that we've covered on the course, we're tracking along, following this footprint in places that it's visible, and employing a couple of techniques that we teach on the course to show how to pick up those footprints further down the line. So you don't need to find every single footprint, you just need to be able to pick them up again further down the track and identify whether that person has left the track in between and come back to it. So this is the same techniques that are employed by search and rescue teams and law enforcement agencies and the military all around the world. It's I've used in my time in mountain rescue and in our dealings with police forces and with training with military teams. It's something we've helped teach there as well. It's what this course is all about, really, because we can't in a day show you everything you need to know about tracking. What we can do is show you some of the very basics and open your eyes up to this the world of tracking, clue and sign.
It's lengthened his stride, but I feel it's that one there, it's going the right way. He's just either run or...
There's a pause in stride there, isn't there? It's
Yes.
changed pace a little bit.
Yes.
What's that one there? Is that going this way? That's the same track going the other direction.
The other direction.
Yeah.
Let's just try it for this one now.
There. That's
Yes.
Yeah.
There.
Okay. So move on. There's a muddier patch coming up, so we're more likely to get a better track there.
The Original Outdoors Podcast. Interviews, tips, news and reviews from people who live and work in the outdoors.
So that was just a small amount of what we get up to on that basic tracking course. You can find out information on this course, when the next one's running, prices, and pretty much everything else on our website, which is originaloutdoors.co.uk. We advertise dates at the moment for tracking courses in North Wales, but if you want to organise a bespoke tracking course or event for yourself or for an organisation, then just get in touch, and we spend a good deal of our time running private courses and private tuition, so it's something we're quite happy to do, and just get in touch and we'll go through to the next stage. Right, coming up next we have an interview that I have been wanting to put out for a little while. It's with another friend of ours. We're fortunate to work in the business we do and have lots of really interesting friends who work and live in the outdoors, and they've got some really interesting and valuable things to say. It's with a gentleman called Andy Jones. Andy owns a company called Seren Ventures, based up here in North Wales, and we caught up with him in the Alpine Cafe in Betws, which is down near the railway station on the edge of the village green there. Fantastic little cafe, does one of the best hot chocolates in North Wales, I think. And yeah, so we sat down for a bit of a chat, and this is what we put together. So we're here with a guy called Andy Jones from a company called Seren Ventures. As with most of the people we've interviewed in the podcast so far, I've just gone around people I know. And Andy, I've known you, 6-7 years? Something like that?
Yeah, probably about 6-7 years, mainly through Mountain Rescue originally, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was Mountain Rescue originally.
So, through a meeting at Oggy Base where you bumped into at some point.
I was doing something, yeah, probably.
Yeah, and I think you know a friend of mine called Wills as well, Mike Williams. I think.
Yeah, I think we've done
stuff like that. Yeah,
mutual friends and different things.
Yeah, I think so.
As it's this outdoors world is a really small world. You can know people from all over the country just through one or two different links in a small area.
Oh yeah, you could definitely bump into each other and make something out of it. I tell you, you know what I mean. It's a very small group and a very, I wouldn't say cliquey, but you know everyone knows everyone, don't they? So
yeah, that's it.
Definitely.
So your company, you run it out of here where we are. We're in Betws at the moment. We're actually in the Alpine coffee shop, which if you don't know it, it's the little cafe right next to the railway station on the edge of the green in Betws here. So Andy, tell us about Seren and what you do.
Well, Seren's been going for about 15 years, and it started back at just about sort of 2001. The plants came together. And it was basically first of all operated out of a house, and then we've eventually moved premises up to share premises with Betws in Betws behind the Londis shop, and that's where we've got an office and stores there. Basically, the emphasis was about providing courses, about mountaineering courses, and also winter mountaineering courses, well, rock climbing courses. And then, like everything else, diversification. We moved on to the adventure stuff, which is as in the canyoning. We're only registered canyoning centre in North Wales. Haven't done the UK Canyoning Guides qualification courses, and also we do gorge scrambling as well. We also are involved with co-steering and as well as taster days and abseiling and climbing days. So that kind of thing.
So canyoning, gorge walking. What's the big difference?
The big difference with canyoning, obviously, canyoning is it's much more extreme day. It's a full day. The jumps are a lot higher. There's more. We descend rather than ascend, like in a gorge where you ascend. There's jumps up to 45 foot, which is a fair height into small rock pools and big abseils up to sort of 60 foot. We have one one canyon. One canyon that has an abseil of 120 foot, and it has six other abseils involved in that as well on the same day. Wow. So that's it. The equipment we need for that is obviously slightly more technical skills, more sort of harness-based skills, a bit of sort of more rope magic really, a lot of self-pull-through systems and setting up systems, and then able to retrieve it. So it's eco-friendly environment. It's an eco-friendly activity by the fact that we leave no traces that we've actually been there. And that's not me jingling my cup, by the way.
No, that was our meal being taken away.
Yeah, so that's where we've just been eating. Where gorging is, canyoning is for all the families from the age of 12 upwards to 18 and whatever age from like that. And the gorge scrambling is for all the family as well, for everyone to enjoy as well.
Cool. Is it something you're getting more interest in?
Yeah, canyoning definitely this year, just this season, 2014, without a doubt, was probably one of our biggest hitting and selling activities of the year. Without a doubt.
I suppose here in North Wales, any activities that involve getting wet and things, they can run most of the year round.
Yeah, obviously the climate of Wales is a little bit wet, like today, as we've seen today, Rich. It's a little bit wet outside today. Yeah, as the man with the bright orange umbrella's displaying as he walks past. So the gorge scrambling we do quite locally, but we're trying to take the pressure off the favourite venues like the Avalon Thea, because they tend to become overrated, over sort of populated, and it just becomes a bit of sort of too much. We want to try and give people that wild adventurous experience while still having a safe and memorable experience at the same time.
Yeah, that's becoming an initiative. The North Wales Environmental Charter Group working to try and help.
Yes.
We're both members of, aren't we?
Definitely.
Try and at least mitigate the impact of groups using these outdoor sites.
Well, exactly, and the reason why we have got a good reputation now for the canyoning side is because we met with the Country Council of Wales down for the Prissel, the Trousdale Valley Gorge, canyon down there, and we had an active meeting with Doug, and we walked round and he explained where the sites of special site of scientific interest were. They're very sensitive areas that we weren't allowed to go to, and we actually discussed with them openly and with the National Park about proactively bolting some sections, because it's been proven that if to actually bolt a section, actually put artificial anchors into the rock, if you're not aware of what a bolt is, for protection, that's actually better than using natural anchors like trees and also like boulders and stuff that could have sensitive algae or plants or wildlife living around it, so we're not actually interfering with the environment. We're actually just using these anchors in the rock.
And that was because we see this at Tramadoc and places like that, don't we, where the trees that are being repeatedly used as abseil points to retreat back from the climbs. You can see exactly where the slings are around them, can't you, and where the ropes are around them.
Well, actually, the BMC took a very active approach. We're talking about anchoring now and environment stuff, not away from the canyon side, but with the rock climbing side. But it's that in Clamorous Pass, they've actually promoted the actual placements of anchors, so much, round blocks and stuff, threads, where they've actually put in fixed anchors to take away that sort of hazard of sort of people probably abseiling off the wrong thing or putting undue pressure on trees or any sort of vegetation around that area, basically.
Well, it's something you see quite a lot in Europe, isn't it? And the Alps particularly, with this fixed protection to that is a known point of safety, or that you're not going to be damaging the environment. It's gathering pace here in the UK, but it's still controversial, isn't it? In certain places, because there's a thing about not placing protection. So bolts and drilled into the rock in places where you could use natural protection, because that's seen as being a less pure way of doing it. And there are quite a few purists out there in the mountaineering world of the UK who would rather not see any bolts anywhere on any mountain, rock, cliff face, wherever. Aren't there? There are still.
I agree in certain parts, because obviously I'm a climber myself, and I believe that sport climbing has its place with bolted protection, pre-placed protection in place. I do feel that Great Britain has a great history of traditional climbing where we place our own protection, and then the second takes it out if people aren't aware of that. But the top of the crag is where the issues are beginning to happen, where trees, as we were talking about before, blocks are being sort of dislodged over time because of the repetitive use, and that's where obviously I'm not saying we should take away the risk element of climbing, because you can't, evidently it's impossible to do so, but you can actually place sort of some sort of anchor system that can be checked quite regularly, either by the BMC or by clubs or by national centres like Classebrelling got involved with Llanberis on the Grochan or what have you. So it's quite an interesting factor to look at. Let's keep the element of traditional climbing in place, but then we need to look at the extraction from the top, how we can do that safely without causing environmental impact. Because I think as the human population continues to grow and we put more pressure on this planet, we need to be ever more sensitive about even with our pastime is what we do, because as a human being we make impact on the environment, and that impact can be either permanent or never unrepairable, basically. So we need to be much more sensitive to our surroundings and more aware of what we do in even our pastimes as well. Yeah,
because we're dealing with a landscape here that's millions of years in the making, and it can be undone in a year, can't it?
Oh, yeah, completely. Because we're talk about gorge scrambling. Seren Ventures, like yourself, Rich, we're very sort of environmentally aware, and we promote the whole sort of eco and environmental sort of system of the outdoor environment as well. Not just about taking people in the mountains, but all taking them in gorges. We actually talk about the environment they're in, so about the sensitivity, the sort of how canyons and gorges are made, and we've been involved with S4C Channel 4 making an educational based programme about canyons and gorges and how they were made, and that's out in the schools now for geography and geology classes. So what we're talking about there is that if you go back to look at the impact, the top section of the Avon V now, near the jump pool at the top, people have actually started to go around one section because they were queuing for the little climb, and they've actually eroded the whole bank away. A tree has now come out. That tree will never ever be replaced because it was probably around about 150 years old, 200 years old. So we as not only providers but as also recreational users, we need to be very much sensitive and aware of what we're doing to the environment.
You can see it on Snowdon, the zigzags at the top of the pig and miners tracks, where the very last bit before you reach the iconic 8-foot high obelisk at the Fingerstone at Port Glass. The last zigzag there, the path I remember 10 years ago, that was about 10 feet wide, and now it's going down to a couple of feet in places, isn't it? It's rotted right away, and that's just numbers of people and the pudding pot effect, isn't it?
Yeah, the evidence is even lower down side from the last part of the zigzag on Snowdon. Again, you can see where people have got impatient with other people, have jumped on the wall and walk around, they've collapsed the whole wall. Yeah. And so that in substitute, what will happen then is that that whole side will eventually slide away. And cause an issue over the winter and winter period and what have you. So, again, as human beings, we are very impactful, but we need to be aware, as I said before, previously, about what we do as our recreation on the outside.
So we mentioned earlier there that we met each other partly through mountain rescue and this sort of small world. 2,500 mountain rescuers in England and Wales, and we seem to know half of them between us. Do you find it's easy to balance that side of your life, that volunteer mountain rescue side of your life, with your work life and your home life?
I think probably pose my question to the wife first and come back. It depends really. Yeah, it can be, because obviously, as you said, mountain rescue is very much voluntary, and whether it's my individual choice if I go on a shout. I don't know if I'm saying this in a negative way, but unfortunately, we tend to be quite a busy team. Ogwen team tends to be busy, and I don't mean unfortunately as in like, you know, I'm a part of that. It means that it seems people are either less aware of what's going on or have a less of a skill base these days, and they're getting into trouble or whatever. It's hard to predict really. I'm glad to say that most of the courts we are genuine trips and slips, and people do make their best effort to try and resolve that. But the balancing the side of it is, yeah, it can be difficult because sometimes I'm tired after being in the mountain all day myself. But you know, I make that choice to go because I believe that putting something back is quite important as well. As for my wife, she'd probably disagree with that quite strongly, but there we go. But she's a very good woman, so I'm very proud, and I love her very much.
Did you? How did you sort of find getting into mountain rescue? Was it something? Were you surprised by how much time you had to give to it, or was it? Did it fit in with your lifestyle? How did it?
It's actually mountain rescue was very early in my life when I was going through college, doing an outdoor course after I left the military. I was invited along to go to Ogwen, and I started on a traineeship there. But due to working the outdoors, I moved away around different parts of the country, and I came back to Wales again to carry on my career and what have you. And then I joined South Snowdonia to start with, so I was down there with South Snowdonia, and then I went to do a casualty care course, known as the CAS care course, the MR level 2 course, MRAW, Mountain Rescue in Wales, which is basically like a sort of a paramedic type course for mountain rescuers.
It's EMT plus opiates.
Yeah, EMT plus opiates. That's the way. That's the look at it. Yeah. So I don't know if I meant to say the opiates part, but
it's on the National Drug Register.
Okay. Yeah. We all. But anyway, so basically, so I was on that course, and I was asked if I'd want to join Ogwen again because I live in between the boundaries. With them being a bit more of a busier team, it kind of suits my nature a bit more. So yeah, I went back over to Ogwen, and I've been there for 7 years now, if not a little bit more maybe, for my sins.
Do you find, I suppose, if you've always been doing it, it's difficult to compare. I found that when I joined Mountain Rescue, it changed the way I looked at the outdoors a little bit and the way I prioritised things, because it meant I was spending a lot more time dealing with people who were in problems or who got themselves into trouble, so I could see problems develop before where they could develop in things that other people are doing or things that I'm doing, or I might say different things to the group because I'd seen an incident where walking along the top of a narrow edge there, and how easily a slip could turn into a serious fall.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It changed my approach to safety and the way I dealt with groups.
I think based on the previous experience, and obviously I think I'm happy to say that I've had epics in the Alps and what have you, and I'm also out climbing in the UK and what have you, but I've managed to resolve them, thank God, without the involvement of any emergency service or mountain rescue. But I think through knowledge of experience, I'd say I thought I had a lot of knowledge of experience, but by actually what Richie's saying, by seeing other people's errors or mistakes or misjudgments, you actually do add to your own sort of list of skills and continual skill base. So I strongly agree with what Richie's saying there. I have seen things that I've gone, maybe I could change what I do that on that little bit there, or I can carry this little bit of kit and what have you. And so, for example, I might update my rucksack, or I might carry bits of personal kit that's always handy.
Something we always say to the clients, say on a navigation course or a first aid course, where we're dealing with some quite complicated issues or something that's alien to the way they would normally work in the outdoors. So we're trying to teach them a new skill. And if somebody's not clicking with it straight away, they can get really frustrated. And something I always tend to say is that you learn absolutely nothing by getting it right first time.
Oh, exactly.
Just by fluke. It's only by making mistakes that you actually learn, because you learn a dozen ways not to do it before you find the 13th way, which is the way you do that does work for you. But knowing those ways that don't work for you is as valuable, if not more valuable.
Oh, completely. And it goes very much back to my early days of climbing, where I started climbing at quite a young age, and dare I say now, the head of Glenmore Lodge, who was my climbing partner and is still a good friend of mine, we went climbing to the Milestone Buttress, because he's from North Wales originally, and he'll probably shoot me for saying this. And we climbed to the top, and it was getting dark, it was November, and we turned to each other and goes, how do we get down? And we said, well, we have to find a way down. There was no mountain rescue in those days. So I think I've come from a period where I'm probably you yourself, Richard, even though you're a little bit younger than me, but you've come from a period where you have to sort out your own issues. With modern technology, people have become less self-reliant and more reliant on technology, because they believe that a mobile will get them out of trouble. That is not true, folks, not in all places.
No.
So please don't rely on mobile phones or iPads or whatever you've got in your rucksacks. Rely on skills.
Hello, it's Mark from Big Man in the Woods, and you're listening to the Original Outdoor Podcast. How's that? Sweet.
So something we're trying to do on these interviews as we go through, because we've got a long list of interviews recorded for 2015 now. We're trying to ask people the 5 things that we'll generally find in their rucksacks, or they take with them on every trip, or most trips. So I did prep Andy on this, that I was going to be asking him the question, but hopefully he's had time to think about them. So Andy, what are your 5 things that you would have in your rucksack?
5 things, obviously. I'm excluding the points where you'd have your Gore-Tex jackets and all that. I'm excluding that kind of stuff. So my personal things I'd have is a spare head torch. Even though I have a head torch, I'd have a spare emergency head torch, and also batteries as well to compensate that. Reason for that is because you may get your head torch out, it may get broken, it may get dropped, you may lose it, or you might have to dish it to someone else in the group who may have a broken head torch. As long as you've got a spare head torch, a little one, doesn't have to be expensive, is always quite good. That way you can strap to your side of your head, which is a good piece of kit to have. Other piece of kit I carry, believe it or not, and I sound like a right Boy Scout, is a pocket penknife. I don't go for the full Leatherman thing because they're quite big and roomy and they're quite heavy. Just a Swiss Army knife that my dad gave me with a little pair of scissors on, and I've had that for 30 years of my life, maybe more, and it's still sharp, still strong. Why do I keep that? It's because if I need to cut plasters down, I've got a little pair of scissors. If I need to open up a pair of trousers or whatever, in emergency first aid, I've got a knife to do so. I can use it for various things as well, you know what I mean, and it's always handy to have, and that's kept in my first aid kit, so I always know what's in there. Other bit of kit I always carry is Compeed, believe it or not. Compeed.
The blister plasters, yeah.
Blister plasters, great piece of kit, and that's always with that. And then the other bit of kit I carry is duct tape. Duct tape fixes anything. Duct tape fixes absolutely anything.
It's got a light side, a dark side, and it holds the wheel together.
That's it, yeah. And it's very. If you get the super duct tape now, you can't get off your water bottle. It tends to pull the side of your water bottle off as well.
Do you keep that in a roll, or do you put it?
I put it around my water bottle.
So around the outside of your water bottle.
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
So it will re-stick quite well then, will it? Yeah.
It does, yeah. You have to change it every while. The other option is if you don't want to keep it around your water bottle, just if you come into end of, or you know someone's got like a plastic roll or something, you know, from a previous duct tape layer, just re-roll it onto that as well. That works quite well.
So trekking poles is what I see on top of around the outside of trekking poles and ski poles. But
problem with that, they get wet.
They do,
and they get ultraviolet and stuff, and affects the sort of the durability and the life and of the glue that's underneath. So and taking it off can be quite difficult. So that's 3 items so far I've got there. So is it 4? Is it 4 items? Sorry.
Yeah.
And then the other item obviously I keep is believe it or not, I always carry a map. So even if I know Snowdonia well, the item that always goes in my rucksack, whatever, is my navigational tool, my map and my compass.
Ordnance survey? Or?
OS, yeah, I tend to use OS. I tend to cut them up into air. I tend to, because I cut my maps up, so I don't carry a whole map as such, because I know the area I'm going to go into, and then on the back of that, I have that cut into that area I'm going to go into.
Do you waterproof them anyway? Or?
Yeah, they're laminated.
Sort of laminated?
Yeah, pre-laminated. And they're in a little drawer at home, little filing cabinet at home, so I've got every part of the country, and I can go and get them out for every area. For example, if on top of the Ben, I've got everything pre-dialed in for the Ben, to get off the summit of the Ben in winter conditions, including my bearings, my actual bearings, and my pacings, and even timings for whiteout conditions.
Yeah, because that's on top of Ben Nevis. That's a notorious one, isn't it, for getting off the summit safely, getting around the gully. Yeah,
and I've also got one from Ben McAdooey to the top of Lurches as well, giving the reference points, bearings to each section, and pacings and timings. Okay. Sound like a bit of a
just in case you have to outrun the grey man of Ben McAdooey.
That's it, yeah. Just in case, you never know, dear.
That's a subject for another podcast, I think.
Yeah. So
well, Andy, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me today, Rich. Thank you for lunch.
Hopefully we'll go out on the hill together soon, and we'll
definitely
record a slightly longer one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Brilliant.
And you can find links to every website that we mentioned in that interview with Andy Jones, including his company, Ogren Valley Mountain Rescue Organisation, the Alpine Cafe, who were kind enough to host us while we rambled on. And anything else that we've mentioned in this podcast, you can find that on our show notes, which is at originaloutdoors.co.uk/podcast. And there'll be links there that take you through to everything else you need to know about this podcast. If you're listening via iTunes or another podcast player, then you can find it in our show notes page there. If you're watching or listening on YouTube, then you can find it in the description below the video. And I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you who's listened and downloaded our podcast. I'm still slightly stunned that so many thousands of you want to listen to a bloke in North Wales ramble on, but I appreciate it. I thank you, each and every single one of you. We've reached episode 5, which I wasn't entirely sure that we'd get to, but we are, and we're still going strong. We're still finding our feet with this, but we're starting to get there. We've got a lot of content recorded for the coming year, so hopefully you'll stay tuned, and we'll stay together on this journey wherever we're going. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's given us support, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for downloading and listening to this episode of the podcast. To make sure you never miss an episode, please subscribe to us on iTunes. If you want to find out more about the company, you can go to originaloutdoors.co.uk. If you want to follow us on Facebook, we're at facebook.com/originaloutdoors, and we're also on Twitter at twitter.com/originaloutdoor.